Hey folks, this is Adam Pratt.
And I'm Lynn Grillo.
And welcome to The Lazy Designer. So, Lynn, what's the first thing you think about when you think about working efficiently in Photoshop?
I'd say automation.
Yeah, me too. Stuff like batch actions. And, actually, I remember a project several years ago. I made 17,000 web graphics in one weekend. 17,000, all using batch actions. And if I had done that by hand, I think I'd still be working on that project.
I think you would, but you know what? Batch actions is nothing, everybody knows about batch actions.
Well, I hope they know about it already. But you know what? In this episode, I actually want to look at how to fire off batch actions from Adobe Bridge to save even more time. So let's take a look. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop CS3 Extended. Let's do a quick refresher on how you do batch actions within Photoshop. And that would obviously be in the File menu. Here we have all of the time-saving features under Automate and Scripts. These are a lot of really cool tools. But to run a batch action inside of Photoshop, I'll choose File, Automate, and Batch. So we'll just take a look at this as a reminder, and then we'll compare that with what's possible with some new ways you might want to work inside a Bridge. So we'll open up this dialog box, and we will just take a quick tour of some of the options here. So the first couple of decisions you need to make include which set of actions are you going to be running from, and specifically which action do you want to use. So you can choose the set, you can choose the specific action, but here's the real trouble with this dialog box. You're really limited. So you have basically a folder. So if you want to run this on a bunch of images, first you have to put them all in the folder, and you have to make sure that there's no images that you don't want processed in that folder. So you really kind of have to set this up ahead of time, because you would choose folder, you'd click choose, and you'd come back here and choose a specific folder. Not rocket science, but again, I'm lazy. I want to make this as easy as possible. So I'm going to cancel out of here. I'm actually going to cancel again, and we're going to jump over to Bridge. I'm going to show you a very different way to work. So I can just choose File, Browse, and that will jump me over to Adobe Bridge. And let me show you just a different way to approach this. So I'm going to select several images here, and in this case, instead of running all of them, maybe I want to select all of them except for that one. So I just command click that one image, control click on Windows to deselect it, and now with just those 6 images selected, you see here in the bottom left corner, it tells me how many files I have selected, how many are visible, and the combined file size of those images. And then here I'll go to the Tools menu, and this is really where you find a lot of time-saving functionality right inside of Bridge. Specifically, we're going to go to Tools, Photoshop, and Batch. Now this dialog box should look really familiar. It actually launches Photoshop, but here's the difference. After you pick your action set and the specific action that you want to run, I'll choose soft flat color from the image effects category that comes with Photoshop, actually, as some sample actions. Here's the difference. Instead of processing a folder or imported or open files, I'm going to process just what I have selected in Bridge. So it's going to use just those images. I'll choose my destination here as a folder. I'm going to use the results folder that I've set up ahead of time on my desktop, and I'll click OK, and we'll just wait for a moment to watch this process. So the advantage here is, instead of going into a kind of a dialog box inside of Photoshop and making this all happen, I can just select exactly what I want inside a Bridge. Now let's just move this over and take a look at the results. We'll drag that into preview here and see. So those are the 6 resulting images. You can see there's a little filter that has been applied to these images here. Now let's use our back button to go back to the previous folder. Again, you notice how easy it was to run the action on everything but this one folder. Now let's take it up a notch, because running actions within Bridge instead of doing them in Photoshop actually gives you some extra possibilities that makes this even more powerful. So specifically, let's go over to this Photoshop folder. This is just a bunch of images. There's a couple dozen files inside this folder, but I also notice that there's a bunch of subfolders here. Now, when you run batch actions from Photoshop, you do have an option to say, run it on this folder and everything in all these subfolders. But you know what that does? It runs on all of the files that it can find, and sometimes that's not appropriate. So if we want to be a little bit more picky, we can use Bridge, and specifically the filter panel here on the bottom left side, to give ourselves a lot of control. Let me show you an example. The first thing that I'll do is come up here to the top of the filter panel, and I'll click this little folder icon. What this does is essentially it sniffs into all the subfolders, and instead of just a couple of dozen, you'll notice here we have over 225, almost 230 images here. I'll just scroll through this to give you a sense of what's going on here. Lots and lots of files in all sorts of subfolders that this is found. Now, to drill down a little bit more, maybe we want to do something just to the TIFF and Photoshop documents. Maybe we want to take our high-res TIFF and PSDs and save those as JPEGs. So here on the left-hand side again, under File Type, I'll just check next to TIFF and Photoshop document. So now we have 50 images total selected. Here's all of these files. And now, in a very quick way, we're selecting all the TIFFs and the PSDs that are nested inside tons of nested folders. And now, that's right, we can go back to the Tools menu and choose something like a Photoshop batch action, or for that matter, really any of these automation routines. So for example, I might want to run Image Processor. This is a great built-in tool that would allow me to take a variety of images that I've selected real quickly there in Bridge and save those out maybe as a decent quality JPEG, downsample them, maybe I want to throw them on a web gallery or something like that. And it's that easy to do, running it right here inside of Bridge, working in conjunction with the rest of your automation tools. So the next time you need to run some batch actions, why not try running them in Bridge instead of the dialog box inside of Photoshop? So until next time, we'll see ya.